Wanted to discuss some additional halachas and shilas that come up when it comes to a self-driving car. The question is, now that Tesla made a software update that you no longer need to hold the steering wheel when the car is driving, and it looks at your eyes. There's a camera right over here, and that camera over there on top of the mirror looks at your eyes and see if you're focusing or not. So the question becomes nowadays, would there be an obligation to hold the wheel from a halachic perspective? So it seems like there wouldn't. However, a shiloh which already came up with me in numerous situations was, let's say a spouse or a parent is uncomfortable with uh, their spouse or their child not holding the wheel while they're using the full self-driving. So in that case, should they be holding it onto the wheel? So I would think that the answer is yes, near Lafinis daiti. This would certainly be ואהבת לרעיך כמוך. After all, a car could be a weapon and it could be deadly. So fatal chas shalom. So therefore, they definitely have a legitimate concern, and therefore, ואהבת לרעיך כמוך, to love other people like ourselves, we should be careful and we should hold the wheel, even though legally we wouldn't need to do so. Additionally, shalom beis, anything that could increase shalom beis is important. That was one point. There's another feature in the Tesla full self-driving called the summon feature, which when you're basically in a parking lot, you open up your phone and the Tesla app, and you push a button, and then the car comes to you without no one in it. An amazing feature, great when it's raining or something, bad weather, you don't want to walk, fine, good with kids, whatever. The shaila that I thought of is it really appropriate halachically and hashkafically to do this in a very busy parking lot? Because a lot of times when you summon the car to come over, the car just comes over to you and it doesn't go necessarily parked directly on the side away from traffic. Sometimes it stays more in the middle of the street and it could cause a backup. And also it travels slower than if a regular human were driving, so it kind of is holding up traffic a little bit. So because of that, I would assume it's best not to do in a very busy parking lot, something where there's a lot of action. Even though it's legally permissible, perhaps it would be preferable not to do it. So that was another point. I want to discuss a few points regarding electric cars and the charging of them and the halachas involved with charging electric cars. Okay. So this happened actually a couple times with me. It doesn't happen often because we really don't travel far often. But let's say the charge on the car is very, very low, and you could technically make it to your destination, and you know because you're an experienced electric car owner and driver that this car could make it to the destination, but it would be on a very low percentage. So is there a reason to stop to charge for a couple minutes quickly to make your spouse happy? Uh, and so that they'll be more calm and they'll have a buffer. So I would think also that it's best to stop to charge to make one's spouse happy, and so that everything would be good. That's what I would assume. Also, like we said above, "ואהבת לרעיך כמוך," that it would be shalom bias. So that's what I would assume. So another halacha which is important to discuss is sometimes chargers they could back up depending upon the charging infrastructure where it is, and is it a Tesla charger, is it Electrify America, EVgo, now Diana, they have all of these public chargers that you could use. So cutting the line is prohibited, even if the other person won't know, whatever it is, it's prohibited. You're not allowed to cut the line. And if you are in a rush or it's a crazy emergency, you have to ask every single person waiting online if they mind. And this, a lot of times in the early adoption, when now they're coming out with more chargers, maybe there's more cards than chargers, there aren't enough chargers there. You have to be very careful with this. Something, okay, sorry about that. Something else, which is a very important halacha, is keeping the car there when the chargers when charging a car at a fast charger when to 100%. As we know, the kilowatt speed of that the car could take drastically decreases as it gets closer to 100%. It starts decreasing from already 80%, and maybe even a little lower technically, but the point is it goes very, very slow, close to 100%. person could be pulling easily over 200 kilowatts when the car's in between 10 and 80%, and a guy who's charging at 96% could only be I've literally seen he's pulling 4 kilowatts at 99, 98%. I've literally seen it. You could hook up to a level 2 charger and get faster speeds than that. So he's holding up the line for other people. So I would assume in that case, you got to unplug halachically, and it's inappropriate. And the truth is, Electrify America at certain locations which are very busy already limited the amount of percentage that a car is allowed to go up to 80 and 90%. So they already took care of that. But I would assume in a place that didn't take care of that and there's a long line, you should definitely unplug unless you really, really need the range, which most times you don't because there's chargers everywhere now. So that's another shiloh that comes up as well. Okay, it goes without saying that if the car is done charging, you have to move the car. They already started tagging on idle fees to this, but people, you got to be careful with this. I've seen it in so many instances. I once saw a car. It was sitting in a level 2 charging spot at a grocery store and it wasn't even plugged in. That's ridiculous. That's also another problem. That's a problem when gas cars block electric chargers. It's a big problem. They call it iced, internal combustion engine, and they block it. It's terrible. You can't do that. The electric cars don't block the gas stations. Why are the gas cars blocking the electric cars? It's ridiculous. Person has to be careful. When the car's done, move it. It's no worse than a gas car just parking there. If you're not charging, move it. And if the charge is done, move it. That's going to be another problem that people need to be careful. You have to unplug it. You have to move out. Another shiloh that comes up with regular charging is it permissible to charge a car over Shabbos? Of course it is. The question is it permissible to, why would you think it's not? I don't know. Someone asked the question once, so I'm just addressing it. The question is, for example, on like a car like a Ioniq 5 or other cars, you could see on the side of the car the state of charge based on how many lights are flashing. On Teslas, you can't do that, but on some cars you could. So is it appropriate to look at that on Shabbos? I would assume not, but it's permissible to charge. It's permissible to charge over Shabbos. It's as we just said, also a level 2 charger you can't block. That's going to be a problem. Doesn't matter. Last shiloh to say, because I got to run over here, is can I charge my car from a shul or a yeshiva or beis medrash? The simple answer is no, you can't, because it's assumed that it's not okay to do. There's an interesting shiloh that I saw brought down. Is it permissible to charge a laptop or a phone at a shul? So for sure, if you're going to be using it for Torah, so then for sure it's permissible. The question is if you're not. So what I saw brought down was Rabbi Scotchless dealt with this shaila, and he says Rabbi Yaakov Scotchless, the mechaber of the Sefer Oel Yaakov, a lot of volumes, excellent svarim. So he said basically nowadays most people don't care in shuls, but it's still a shaila thing to care about. I would assume that in shuls for a car they would care about. So then that would in fact be an issue. So those are some other additional halachas that I thought of specifically pertaining to electric cars and self-driving. There are other videos that I want to make, but I don't want to condense it into something very small, and because the topics are longer and more complex. But I started thinking about all of this. I saw the first video was very matzliach. Everyone was very into it. It's very unique. There's nothing else like it. And I said to myself, these halachas are fascinating, and I know a lot about electric cars also, because I've lived with two already for 4 years as an early adopter, and I'm very into it, and I'm very into halach, and I'm very into Torah. So I just said to myself, I'm gonna start writing, and I'm gonna write a sefer about this, and I'm gonna make a whole playlist on this on the channel about cars, because this is Torah, this is interesting, this is bringing Torah to life, and it applies with all technological advancements, robots coming out, all of the AI. There are tons of halachas that come out from all of this and that need to get dealt with, and it's fascinating to attempt to try to discover the correct path and the MS as to what we should do and what Hashem wants from us from a halachic perspective. But anyways, Amir Tzah Hashem, there are many other topics coming up. I don't want to ruin any endings over here, but believe me, there are around another 5-10 excellent, very important shilas coming right up. So stay tuned. If you're into it, then definitely you should hit the thumbs up, and you should definitely subscribe if you haven't already. It's good for the algorithms. More people will be able to see the Torah, benefit from this, and apply it to their own lives and other people that they talk to. Excellent conversation starter. Very interesting stuff. Everyone should have a wonderful day. Stay safe out there in the cold and in the snow.